Good morning, everyone. Hope you're keeping cool in the heat. I've got a bit of a Marilyn Monroe thing going on here with a fan facing directly at me. It's the only way to survive today, isn't it? So, yeah, hope you're keeping well. Hope your pets are well. That's a hard thing. Gwen's in that room, which is the coolest room, totally flat out with a belly out, trying to keep cool. So, I don't think she'll make an appearance today. So, yeah, so today I've always done craft workshops for you guys. But I actually do a little bit of painting. It's more my mum's thing than me. She's an amazing painter, like, oh, incredible. Does landscapes and dogs and humans, and they just all look amazing. She's so good. So I just picked up a few things from her. I did it at GCSE and A level, actually. But I generally choose crafts. But recently we've just started doing kind of paint and sip type classes. And also doing painting with kids. And it's actually been really nice. It's been really nice to do something a little bit different and have something kind of nice to come away with. So I'm here really not as a kind of a professional artist or art teacher. I'm here to kind of give you some ideas for just literally taking a couple of hours out to do some painting, some really kind of fun, colourful things. It's really good if you've got kids or grandkids, or if you run a kind of community group, because actually it's really accessible and there's actually like some quite good, easy, cheap ways to do it. So obviously I've got easels. I wouldn't suggest that you have to go out and get those. It is quite nice to be a little bit elevated, but you can always put a box and like a little bit, I don't know, something to hold it still if you did want it on a diagonal. But also we can also paint flat. That wouldn't work so well for this. But yeah, so that's the only thing that's probably expensive. Everything else is like really cheap and really easy to get hold of. And like I said, this isn't necessary. So canvases, you can either get these kind of thin canvases, which are great for just like having a go, or you can get the deeper ones, and you can get them in Home Bargains, B&M, all those sort of shops, obviously online as well. I generally go for something that's similar to kind of A4 paper, so I think that's about a minimum of like 8 inches by 10 inches. I think that's a nice size to work on, and I don't go huge, otherwise it can be a bit frustrating. We're just looking at little projects that you can do nice and easily. There's a really good website. I'll post it afterwards. It's an American website, and it's aimed at paint and sip parties. But they literally give these lovely like step-by-step guides. So yesterday with the kids, we did llamas, and it was really handy for the kids to see that you obviously paint the background first, and then you build up the little bits. And again, I'm doing a different tropical sunset, but you could totally edit it. But again, just giving you a little idea of where to start and where to finish. So like I said, I'll post that link. There's millions of ideas. I think the main thing with it is the reason I chose tropical is that you don't need anything on the background. You don't need any pencil drawings. But if you wanted to do something like I've previously done, I'll show you my dog. I've done Gwen like that. So obviously that was quite hard to do. The great thing with that, the reason it's got Merry Christmas written on it, is that then I photographed it, and then I sent it to one of those little websites where you get things printed, and I turned it into Christmas cards, got a little logo on the back. It's actually ended up becoming a class, as most things in my life do. It was just something silly that I did, and I thought that it would be quite fun for other dog lovers. So obviously for that, I was struggling to get the proportions of Gwen right because I'm not an artist. So I printed off a big picture of her, like so. And then I got some transfer paper, this black kind of carbon paper, and then I kind of copied it onto the white canvas. So I just pressed down, I put it in between, and then I put it on a new canvas, like so. So I had the carbon paper in there. Oh, sorry, that way around, obviously. And then I drew Gwen's face, and then a transfer of that arrived on there. So that was really handy in making sure that I got the scale of Gwen correct. But otherwise, like I said, there's loads of ideas like the one I'm doing today, where it doesn't matter where your trees are, it doesn't matter where your sun is, it's all kind of abstract. It's like an abstract landscape, so you don't really need to put anything on the canvas at first. So then let's quickly talk supplies. So again, you don't need a palette, but I do have some here, but you could obviously just use an old like picnic plate that you never end up using, or some sort of like bit of packaging, like a little bit of a corrugated cardboard box, or even like a plastic tray. We get enough of those, don't we, when we buy our supermarket shop? So don't go out and buy one of those. But yeah, find a vessel to put things in. You need an old cup with some water in. You need some paints, but again, just go your primary colours, black and white. There's absolutely no point in buying other colours. You can totally make any colour that you want, and it's quite fun to remember your colour wheel from school maybe. And then I've got a ridiculous amount of brushes, but you'll see in here that because I don't like waste, I'm using lots of old paintbrushes that I've had for the house. That's actually really good for things like backgrounds. It's nice and quick, and you can actually get quite a nice effect from brushes. And then also I've even got some old makeup brushes in here, you know, where you get a set and then there's actually only one or two that you actually only like and use. They're all brushes. There's no point like going out and buying professional art brushes. Like, we're just having some fun. So have a little think if you've got any brushes at home that you could use again, rather than going out and wasting stuff. So yeah, so we'll start doing our little tropical. Like, as you can see, I'm a bit blue peachy. I'm going to show you how I do the background, but it then needs to kind of dry before you add the tropical detail. So I didn't really want you to just sit here literally and watch paint dry. So I thought I would just get started. So you can do sunset, sunrise, whatever you want. You don't have to obviously do like the red and orange like I've done. You can do any colours that match your home. I'm just going to go straight in with a big brush, and then I'm just going to mix some colours first. So I don't need to wet that yet. Let me just put this down a little so you can see my palette as well. Here we go. I'll move back so you can see me. So I'm just going to make, well, I'm actually quite happy with the red. So I won't do the red bit because I'm just going to use red paint for that. So let's just remember how to make something like an orange. So I'm just going to mix in a new part of my palette. I'm not going to be too neat about this. Some red and some yellow. I'm often quite surprised how much you need. Actually, that'll be a bit of experimentation for you. You'll need to kind of have a little play, and you'll run out sometimes. But again, a sunset is quite forgiving. Like, I've messed up my palette a bit. I've got red in the yellow, but because I'm doing a sunset, it doesn't really matter. I don't have to be too precise because I want everything to blend. Then I want a nice big brush. I'm just going to choose a nice one. Nice and soft there. Little bit of water. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if you, like when we do it with like events and like social groups and kids, we don't use much. We try and avoid using loads of water because you don't want it to be too wet. Like I do have, for emergencies here, a hairdryer. I don't particularly want to put it on today. It's a bit hot. But obviously that speeds up the drying process if needed. If you do have a time limit on what you're going to do. And then you're just going to be I'm in a bit of a funny angle so that I can make sure that I'll just put that in a bit. Is that right? Ooh. Just so you can see everything. I think we're okay on me. Yeah, cool. All right, get my orange. And then the thing with it is not to do like little bits and then drag it over. You really want to be like going over the edge. So again, if you don't have an easel and you're working on a table surface, just make sure you're like on some newspaper or something so you don't get it all over the table. I'd also recommend an apron, especially, like I said, when we're working with kids. So then when I've done the long strands is important, not kind of just doing it in chunks. So I'm just going to do a bit of yellow. So I'm trying to put a tiny bit on because I don't want to affect, I don't want you to have to sit there and watch paint dry. And where my paintbrush is dirty, that's actually kind of with a bit of orange still on it. That's working in my favour because it's bringing a bit of orange into the yellow. Long strands. Putting a bit of yellow up here, blending it in. And then going up to red. So my layers here are quite thin, but you would need to put a lot more paint on your paintbrushes. That seems to be, I must have done a bit more of an orangey red before, so let me just change that a bit. The red sticking out is a bit pinky. There you go. All right, so I do the same for the C. This one I've gone for more of like a classic C, so they bounce off each other. But here I went more for like a muted C. Totally up to you. You may want to look at a holiday photo and get some inspiration on what to do. It's funny, it looks okay here, and then I can see in the camera there, it looks weird there, but I think maybe it's just because where it's wet. Here it looks okay. Oh, yeah, it is. It's like dry by here, wet, so it makes it look like there's a big gap on the screen. There we go. All right, so like I said, that's a bit of a cheat way, but you would literally be going for it with much thicker paint and filling the whole thing. You may want to do the sky first, have a little break, and then do the sea on top, because you want it to be like a solid line where the sea begins. You don't really want those two to blend. You want them to be different. All right, so that's probably the end of my big brush, and then I'm going to be using a small brush from now. So again, I'll show you that step-by-step guide that I got from the good old internet. Oh, the next thing was going to be is the sun. Yeah. Well, actually, they started with the sun. This is totally different instructions than what I used before. But anyway, I'm going to have the sun now. I prefer to have the sun now. I did that bit of stuff. So I want a whitey kind of yellow colour and a medium-sized brush. Let me use that one. So just getting my white, a little bit of yellow. So let me know if you have any questions. Like I said, I'm not an artist. I'm just having a bit of fun. But I think, like I said, we're making it work quite well for the kids at the moment. So made like a lemony colour. I would go freestyle, but if you felt unsure, you could obviously always put a pencil mark. Just go very gentle with pencils. It's actually quite hard to cover a pencil afterwards. So you could always use something like chalk if you had it instead. And again, long lines. Try not to just go dab, dab, dab. I'm actually a little bit uncomfortable here, so I'm just going to change angle. The other thing people often forget you can do when you're painting is, like, I would rather currently to be like that. That would be much easier for this line. I'd rather go up. So don't forget that you're not stuck in the perspective that you've set it up in. That's just, you can keep moving it around to suit whatever you want. So that. Because what I don't want to do is touch it with my arm. So it is a nice way to just relax, forget about whatever it is that's troubling you on your mind. Put your phone away. There you go. All right. So now I've got my sun. It's a little bit uneven. The problem is it's like cutting a fringe, something like that. Keep going until you get it right. And then you could do some wispy little clouds as well, depending on what you fancy. So I'm just going to do those. I actually need a bit more white. And then I'll get onto the leaves then. Ooh, squirted out my finger. Good old for the apron, eh? Actually, I don't feel, I mean, am I going to do them? I feel like I'm going to do them wrong. I feel like, I'm trying to think what colour they should be. I don't think they should be white. I think they should actually be darker. Yeah. So I've gone for like an orangey white. Edges don't have to be perfect for a cloud, obviously. There you go, a little cloud. I'm just going to do the one today. All right, then let's add our little landscape that's in front. I'm going to go a big brush at first, and then I'm going to probably reduce to I will definitely reduce to a smaller brush then for the leaves. So again, you can do a little prep line if you like. Again, I'm probably, because it's so low and there's this little ridge in the way, I'm actually going to turn it upside down to do this, just because I think I'll feel a bit more comfortable. So I'm just doing a little bit of land at the bottom, and I'm just going to make that black so it sits in the forefront there. I'm just using mostly paint with like the brush is like a tiny bit wet because I want it to be nice and thick. And again, all of this is just up to you, like how deep you want that, how sloped you want it. You can totally decide. I don't want it to look too kind of like it's like it's been painted as a straight line. So I'm just going to use my brush and just go the opposite direction and just give the kind of impression of just texture, just the impression of kind of grass and that sort of thing. Just randomly, just so it doesn't look too flat. Yeah. All right. So now it's time. So I am going to run and get a pencil. Actually, I as much as I'm quite confident, I feel like I'd like to just know the arcs of my 2 trees before I get started. So give me a sec. I just get. Oh, here's one. Just going to do a quick. I'll put it the right way around now as well. I just did that so I could. That wasn't in the way. So I want it obviously kind of surrounding the. Just drew on it. The sun. So I find a line like that where you just kind of stitch it together. Want it kind of over the middle there. That's it. Nice, and then I want it quite wide at the bottom. That's it. And I don't think I'm going to bother drawing the leaves on like that. I was just keen to make sure that they were fairly symmetrical there. So I'm just going to start. They're going to be wider at the bottom and narrower at the top. And I actually think this brush might be a bit too big. So I'm going to just do the bottom bits. And then I'm going to go for a slightly thinner brush because I could easily make a mistake up here if I continue using this huge brush. There you go, that'll do for now. So a bit of a thinner brush. I've almost got too many choices of brush, I think. Try this one. So lots of these brushes are just cheap brushes. They're fine. Actually, that's not. There you go. And then the thing with doing long lines like this, I personally prefer to just like go for it. So I am in a funny angle, which is not helping. Long lines. But I wouldn't worry too much. There's a little bump on that one. I'm not going to overthink it. It's meant to be a real tree. Real trees aren't dead smooth. But this is quite good for just building up your confidence in your hand skills, thinking about colours. There you go, up to the top there. Nice. One's ended up a bit taller than the other, but again, I'm gonna pretend that that's fine. So now I'm just gonna build those kind of leaves off it, the palms. So I'm just gonna do sweeping motions. Gonna aim for about 5 per stalk. So it's coming together, as you can see, quite quickly. A little bit of water helps it flow. I wonder what my mum actually will make of this. Like I said, she's like a proper good artist. There you go. There's my 5. Nice. And then I definitely need a smaller brush now. So let me just find a half decent one. Lots of these have been used, lots. So they're starting to look a bit, maybe need replacing actually. So to do the little leaves that come off it, I find if you start in the center and then come out. So, sorry, I the total opposite. Start at the tip and go in. Ignore me, because you want to go thin, and then it doesn't really matter if it ends up thick. So thin, thick, thin, thick, thin, thick, thin, thick, thin. around. You instantly see. So you can kind of hold it nice and still, thin, thick, trying to make it look, have different thickness in the leaf. And blend them in a bit. Thin, thick, thin. There you go. So I'm literally just going to keep doing this now for like all 10 leaves, just going around them. I'll do one just over here, just in case it's a bit closer for you, a bit easier to see. Thin, a bit thick paint on the brush. And the great thing with it, maybe some of you haven't, just seen a little mistake there. If you haven't painted for a long time, you might, the first time you do it is feel like, oh dear, you're not very happy with the results. But I don't know if you can see, there's a totally different drawing underneath this, where we did one as a little sample and we didn't really like it. So you can literally then just paint over them and then start again. Like I said, it's not ideal, but it's totally doable, is to just literally just paint over them and just keep practicing. And you will just get your hands just need to feel comfortable in different positions. And again, remember what I've said about just kind of moving your canvas around. I definitely think that's a really good way of making sure that you feel nice and comfortable. So just try different directions and you'll soon realize what's, the different parts of these leaves are going to be easier at different angles. So I'm just going to keep moving my frame around and eventually I'll have a finished picture. So yeah, I'll keep going on that. Like I said, it's going to take me some time and I wouldn't mind sitting with it like in front of me rather than on the side. But yeah, just going to keep tweaking it. But I hopefully have a sunset picture within, from start to finish in about 2 hours, which is a really nice way to kind of relax and then have like a really nice outcome at the end. So yeah, do let me know if you have any questions and do keep cool. And I don't know if I've got anything lined up at the moment, but I'll speak to the Virtual Village Hall team and arrange something soon, and we'll do some more crafting together. All right, take care. Bye.